when the body's organs and systems become overloaded, exhausted, and compromised. Ben, Ufana have a lot of very in-depth, detailed information. So with that, let's dive in. For decades, I've heard people talk about emotional blocks, or saying something to the effect that their chakras are blocked. And to be honest, I find it quite irritating and also disheartening because it reflects a level of gross ignorance, a lack of awareness and disconnect that many people experience from what's actually taking place inside their own bodies and minds. And it's a grossly inaccurate assessment. What people are often describing as being blocked is far more complex. In many cases, there are neurochemical and hormonal imbalances, damage or dysregulation within the nervous system and other systems of the body and internal organs that have become compromised over time. Chronic stress, trauma, illness, and prolonged emotional strain place an enormous load on the body. Systems begin to degrade, compensation patterns develop, and resilience drops. Layered on top of this are highly charged emotional experiences, unresolved trauma, and fragmented consciousness. Parts of the psyche split off or become compartmentalized as a means of survival. Attention narrows, awareness constricts. The system doesn't stop functioning, but it functions under strain, looping around unresolved material and operating in a diminished capacity. What most people don't understand is that our lived experiences and our emotional responses to them need to go through a process in which they are digested. Whatever we fail to digest doesn't just disappear, it becomes stagnant residue that remains trapped in the body, and that can begin to impede the function of the organs and systems. Again, it's not a block that needs to be removed, it's material that needs to be metabolized, much like the food we eat. So it can be utilized as fuel for continued growth, rather than remaining stuck inside as pain, tension, and stagnant emotion. Nothing here is blocked. The system is overloaded, exhausted, fragmented, or compromised, or some combination of all these, and still it's doing the best it can to hold itself together. Healing then is not about removing an obstruction, it's about restoring capacity, supporting the nervous and other systems and internal organs, enabling lived experience and emotional charge to be digested, and reintegrating what was split off under duress. As capacity increases, function returns, not because something was cleared, but because the system can finally do what it was designed to do. When people say, my emotions are blocked, or my chakra is blocked, what they're usually doing is referring to some form of cognitive, emotional, or physiological dysfunction without actually understanding the processes involved, while using a grossly inaccurate metaphor as if it were an explanation. With that said, chakras and the subtle bodies have been described in Hindu, Vedic, Buddhist, and Tantric traditions for thousands of years. If you feel drawn to explore that, I encourage you to do so through these ancient systems with study and practice. Wikipedia offers a brief overview of the chakra system, and if you want a basic starting point, I encourage you to look below this video. If you're seeing this on YouTube, I'll post the link to the article. In the article, I'll post the link to the piece that goes into depth. It's an overview of the chakra system. So just to give an analogy here, our computers often malfunction. Would it make any sense at all to say that our computer is blocked? It would actually be silly. Our bodies are highly complex bioelectrical systems, and I see a lot of similarity between the digital systems we created and our bodies and minds. Computers don't malfunction because they're blocked. The CPU gets overloaded because too many processes are running simultaneously, memory gets maxed out. Programs freeze or keep running in the background, software glitches, conflicts and poorly configured updates create instability, files and other data becomes corrupted, and the system becomes unstable. Hardware degrades, components overheat, drives begin to fail, RAM becomes faulty. None of this is mysterious. It's not blocked, it's overloaded, strained, and compromised. My mentor, Horace Dolkai, one of the last surviving traditional doctors, a medicine man among the Kiowa tribe, like many Native Americans in his generation, didn't have the opportunity to continue his education. I think maybe he went as far as the 8th grade. Yet Horace's father was an extraordinarily powerful doctor, passed on portions of his own healing gifts to Horace, and soon afterwards, Horace was shipped off to fight in Europe. He was fighting in World War II. Even when I knew him, he still had flecks of German shrapnel in his back from when he was in combat. Horace, having received the transmission from his father in going through numerous vision quests, possessed extraordinary capabilities. And even though he didn't know proper anatomical terms, he could observe what was taking place in people's bodies and describe it in great detail. And then he would tell his patients what he would do to address their needs. He was highly effective in identifying the issues and addressing them. The problem with so many present-day New Agey folks is that they've read all kinds of bullshit books. They're not doing the hours of intensive daily practice like Indian yogis, Buddhist monks, that would actually facilitate the development in their bodies and minds. And they don't possess the kinds of gifts or powers that these adepts possess, that they worked with over thousands of years. And they can't perceive what's going on in other people's bodies, or even their own bodies for that matter. In many respects, they're like children with their toy stethoscope playing doctor. That's why I encourage people to actually learn and do the practices that have been passed on through the Hindu, Vedic, Buddhist, Native American, and other ancient spiritual traditions, practices that can help you develop these capacities, and many others. And while you're at it, I also suggest that you study anatomy and physiology, neuroscience, and medicine, both modern allopathic and holistic, and psychology, so that you gain a clearer understanding of what's actually taking place in people's bodies and minds. Before graduating from college, I did an independent study with a couple who practiced an intensive form of body work that involved acupressure. And the husband, Randy, could actually see the subtle bodies, the chakras, the layers of the aura, the points on the body, and that's how he was able to determine what needed to be addressed. I couldn't see in the same way Randy did, yet I discovered that I could feel through my hands much of what Randy was seeing. Gradually, over time, I developed the capacity to feel the individual chakras, to feel people's current emotional states, to sense the stresses, emotions, and unresolved issues and trauma being held in their bodies. I could also feel illness or injuries. I could feel the resources and capacities that they possessed as well. Whenever I conducted classes or workshops, I often offered to scan people's bodies, and many were so impressed by how accurately I could perceive what was going on in their lives, how they were coping emotionally, and what was taking place in their physical bodies, that it convinced them that they wanted to work with me. My capacity to sense what was going on in people's bodies has continued to develop over time, largely as a result of the many hours of intensive meditation practice, qigong, and also going through numerous vision quests. in addition to feeling through my hands, I gradually developed this internal vision. So I would feel what was going on scanning a person's body, and yet I had this internal imagery of what was taking place in their body corresponding with what I was feeling through my hands. While people these days tend to be more scattered, disconnected, overstimulated, stressed out, living in a constant state of sensory overload driven by digital media and their ongoing struggle, what they have to do just to survive on a daily basis, I still feel that many people possess the innate capacity to develop this deeper awareness and perception. And over the years, I have taught a number of individuals to do exactly that. And if that's a capacity you're interested in developing, I encourage you to reach out to me. I encourage you to work with the practices I'm teaching, along with other practices such as Qigong, Pranayama, and to work with gifted healers such as myself, and if you feel called, even go on the Vision Quest. It's also critically important that we learn to work effectively with our emotions, to face the issues concerning us head on, to clean up our diets and eliminate refined sugar and other heavily processed foods, tobacco, alcohol, and other substances that have a numbing effect, substances that blunt our emotional awareness. In closing, I do want to mention that possessing this sensitivity can also be a real challenge at times. The most challenging aspects of being an empath is that you're far more acutely aware of the dysfunction and toxicity that is so prevalent. And at times that toxicity can feel very unpleasant, to put it mildly. Yet it's this sensitivity that is so essential for healing ourselves and others, and for the planet as well. If you'd like to learn more, you could message or call me at 332-333-5155, or visit healmyheartache.com, teachmetomeditate.com, or benufana.com.